All right, traders, welcome back to Monopoly Money. We're going to talk about the S&P 500 and some Bitcoin. We're going to make predictions that are for the next short time frames here. We're not really looking at longer time frames. Anybody who follows the channel will know I was trading a lot of Bitcoin before. Again, this is a paper trading channel. While I was making some trades myself earlier, right now I've been paper trading because, well, I was, you know, losing some money on some trades. But the reason I'm getting back into it is I've been looking at the S&P 500 recently, and I've made a set of projections on the daily time frame that have played out pretty nicely. So I thought I better get back in here and, you know, at least paper trade myself more seriously. And part of that is discussing it and holding myself accountable by talking about it publicly. So anyway, S&P 500 went down to the 800 EMA back in late January, late December to late January. It hung out there. These arrows are starting on the day that I drew them, so obviously it had moved up from there by then. But my projection was, it's going to move out here. I closed a trade there thinking that it was going to bounce down off of the 200. Well, I mean, it did bounce off of the 200, but then it pushed through. So once it pushed through and broke this channel, this larger channel down that way, my projection was that price was going to move up for a bit and then come back down and retest the 200. And sure enough, that's what it did. This white line is 200 EMA. Traders Reality, shout out Traders Reality. They made this indicator that I'm using also. Basically, that channel taught me everything that I know. So if you want the source, go listen to Tino at Traders Reality. Also, I listen to Game of Trades, which is usually where I'm looking for macro trends. And he is bearish right now. Anyway, this projection up a bit, back down, test the 200. That played out over roughly 36 days. Let's measure that out. When did I draw that and where did that go to? That played out for 40 days. And then after that, on this day, I said that, or before this day even happened, after this 3-day downtrend, where price fell from 405 down to, rough, 385, I said, okay, it's going to make a beeline for the 800 EMA, this purple line there, but it's going to bounce up off of that. Well, literally the next day, God, come on. Literally the next day, it moved down, hit the 800, moved up off of that, and then continued as projected. Now, within that time frame, arguably did that, went up to where I said it was going to go, and then came down again. I do think that we're heading for another reversal here, which is why I've left this drawn out like that. And this is my upcoming projection there. So as far as personal accountability, there is no candlestick where this line is drawn. This is how I draw my projections. So, friend calling me on the other line. I'm going to call him back in a minute. We're going to use blue. What is my projection here? My projection here is a retest of the 200-day EMA, right like that. Now, I don't know right now if it's going to move up off of it or back down further. Generally, I would say back down further at this point in time, but we're starting small. Why do I think that that's going to happen? Again, here, starting small. If we look at the 1 hour time frame, what do we have? We've got a return to the 200-hour EMA, right? So if it comes down to here, that's entirely expected. That's like 402. And as long as it's going to be at 402, I would expect price to push just a little bit below 400 because there's going to be money down there and the shorts will probably push it down there, but longs will push it back up, at least for a little bit. One of the kind of rules of how I'm trying to trade right now is that's paper trading. Fake money, monopoly money. Anybody who thinks otherwise, it's right there. Paper trading. That's what I'm doing. No real money. Learn first. Anyway, 1 hour time frame here. Why do I think it's coming back down there? My basic strategy at this point in time is open longs below key numbers, close them above it. What are key numbers? Multiples of 10, multiples of 25, obviously multiples of 100. You know, if you over the last year were buying below 400 and selling above 400 and just holding those positions until they closed, DCA below, sell above, you would have made plenty of money in this lateral market. So that's, you know, that's a real basic strategy. That's not rocket science. That's real basic. And, you know, part of this is just me starting to have the balls to put my money on the line. You know, I'm a little chicken after losing some money on trades over the last year, but it's definitely something that you need to stick with if you want to build lifetime wealth. You need to know how to invest. Trading, you know, some would say it's investing is to hold indefinitely. However, you know, your investment strategy may include things where you think that, you know what, this is going to be a good time period for this. Maybe it's a year. Maybe it's, you know, maybe it's less than that. But for me, the study of that needs to happen on a shorter time frame, because if you don't study it on a shorter time frame, you're not going to have enough experience to make those plays over the longer time frame. So that's why I'm looking at this. You know, I drove myself nuts looking at the 5-minute time frame on cryptocurrencies. I'm liking S&P 500 because, again, big, slow movements, a lot of liquidity, and, you know, it's not something I'd be worried about being stuck in a trade with for a while. So that's kind of where my mind is at with this right now. All that to say, I'm expecting the next few days to show price action moving down to the 200 on the 1 hour time frame, perhaps down to the 800 below $400. On the daily time frame, that's a return to the 200-day EMA. So I think that's a pretty clear projection there. There's a gap here as well, so maybe price comes all the way down there to fill that gap before moving up, at least a little bit. Everything moves up and down. As far as Bitcoin goes, my next projection, it's hitting overhead resistance at the 800-day EMA. I think that, you know, what does this say here? Yeah, it's consolidating. So it's consolidating around the 800 EMA. But I also think that it's going to come down a little bit here and retest some of these zones. Why? Because there's liquidity sitting there. On the 1 hour time frame, there's liquidity at 26.5 roughly. On the daily time frame, there's liquidity at 25,000 and at 22,000. Go in here, look at the 1 hour. Right. That's a big green vector candle. This one's been recovered. This one's still exposed. I would not be surprised at all to see price come back down here, test the 800 on the 1 hour time frame, reject the 800 on the daily time frame, and at the very least, that's maybe coming down to test the 50 on the, or, you know, even if you're bullish, I think the idea of it coming back down to test 25.7, or the 50-day EMA, if that 50-day EMA, if that works its way up, lines, come on, lines. Duh. Let's say that turquoise line works its way up like that, coming up to meet price. Then you have price action coming down here to the 800. Maybe this has moved up a little bit further. You can see where the 800 on the hourly time frame and the 50 on the 1 hour time frame are going to get close to each other there. And frankly, I just think it's unlikely for Bitcoin to not come back down into that zone. I have these buy orders sitting here, again, paper trading account, but if those hit, then I'm expecting some movement up out of this zone just a little bit. I'm maybe looking for 2 to 3% on those, which, you know, those being full Bitcoin sitting there, that would be 3% of $50,000, $1,500 in a quick little move there. If I could get that, I would be very happy there. So that's what that is right there. My projection is down into this zone and then up there. So you can see both of these projections that I've made are sitting in space right now. They're not, oh, that one is looking like it is. So let's move that, okay? Projections are in open air. And let's redraw this one here. What do I actually think is going to happen? I think it's going to come down, hit my buy order, and move up at least a little bit. Cool. So that's my projections right now. We're going to publish this. We're going to see if they come true, and I'm going to hold myself accountable publicly. See how that goes. Cheers, y'all. Happy trading.